This is 𝗗𝗶𝗶𝘁 in Chicago, and you're watching my channel, Knowledge for Quality of Life. Friends, as I promised last week that I'm going to be doing effect of ApoE genotype on various diets and how we have to conform ourselves based on what genotype we carry. But before I do that, I welcome to those who have recently joined the channel and joining the community of learners. And I strongly recommend to participate in the comments, questions, and I will try to respond to the best of my ability, which I've been doing it diligently. So before I get into the nitty-gritty and details of it, I just wanted to give you a perspective that how I ended up in getting this into ApoE genotype business. As you know that, very few people are talking about this thing, but, I had an issue, particularly in my family. My wife, when she was not metabolizing vitamin K2, and I did the research, and I was looking for answers vividly in the scientific literature, and I ended up in finding one. And when I fixed that issue, it seems to me that I open a can of worms, because ApoE genotype is not only help myself and my family, particularly my wife, in mitigating the issues with vitamin K2, but overall, how she metabolizes and other folks would metabolize fats. Because ApoE genotype is a type of lipoprotein which metabolizes fats and other nutrients throughout our system, throughout our human genome system. So I started looking into more and more that, how we all differ, and why people are saying that, eat a keto diet. Some people are saying eat plant-based diet. Some people are saying the DASH diet, MIND diet, all those things, variety of things. But nobody is talking about, at least I haven't come across, that how each diet varies based on what type of ApoE genotype one would carry. Because if it's not customized based on your ApoE genotype, that diet may be excellent diet for someone else, but not good for you. Okay, and I'll tell you exactly what was happening, and in my case, in my wife's case, not too much in my case, because I have a ApoE 3.3, and I'll tell you a little bit more. But to get the full concepts of what we are talking about today, I would strongly recommend to watch this vlog in its entirety. If you can't finish it one time, do it in bits and pieces, in parts. But look at it in its entirety, so that you can get the big picture. What are we talking about? So a lot of people I have seen talking about it on various forums, and people say that oh, if I go on keto, my LDL, my cholesterol shot up. Okay, and I've been seeing, and you agree with me, and sometimes we are consuming keto diet because it's a latest fashion, because people are pushing keto diet. But keto may not be good for everyone. As I said, that when it comes to diet, it's not like one size fits all. Okay, so and I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we move on. So some people say that when I started keto, my LDL, particularly so-called bad cholesterol, shot up and it went through the roof. And I see this on a daily basis. When I see the forums, various forums, I read it, and people complain about it. But at the same time, I haven't seen anyone talking about how ApoE genotype plays a role. There could be other factors like lean mass responder type of phenomena, which some folks, they respond to that LDL jump. But ApoE also plays a very big role. I have seen it in my wife's case, and I'll tell you a little bit more down the line. So let me share my screen with you, which I have created a small snippet So what you're seeing here, actually, I went through a lot of scientific literature, okay? And when I found out that, the fats are, it's something that, affect based on metabolization of the fats, based on the ApoE genotype, then I started questioning into the literature and looking into the literature that, what type of ApoE genotypes are good to digest fat very well without spiking their LDL and other issues. So I saw a variety of things in the scientific literature. Then I gave those parameters, those my prompt questions to the AI ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, and I went through many dialogues with ChatGPT back and forth, and finalizing this table, that what one would think of based on the ApoE genotype, that what the diet should be, okay? And this is what I'm sharing with you. And when it comes to the two particular diet, in my case 3-3, and my wife's case 3-4, I'm going to validate that what it gave me, it makes sense, and we have seen in the test results as well. So ApoE genotype 2 folks, they handle fats pretty good. They metabolize fats pretty well without spiking the LDL, okay, without increasing the cholesterol, so to speak, bad cholesterol. But when it comes to insulin resistance, they are not very good handler of the carb source. When I'm talking about refined carbs and sugars and all that. So you see that here, their strengths, ApoE genotype 2. So I categorize, basically, as I said in the previous vlogs, that there are 3 types of genotypes, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a combination of 2-2, 2-3, 2-4, 3-3, 3-4, and 4-4. So I'm going to be illustrating everything here, all 6 types. Now, one would know, you better get tested to know that what type of genotype you have inherited from mom and dad, so you can further take on you, and you move on, and see how your results pan out based on certain type of diet which you have been consuming. And if there is a tweaking required, you can tweak it, okay, based on this guidance. This is not a guidance, basically. This is a chart which I have come across, based on the scientific literature which I have read, and communicating with the ChatGPT, it gave me a customized based on individual ApoE genotype for all 6 categories. So ApoE genotype 2, their strengths are efficient fat handling, okay. Watch out for high triglyceride and insulin resistance, because they don't handle very well the carb source, okay. The carb source, particularly the refined carbs and sugar, and they cannot handle very well the insulin sensitivity, okay. So it means that folks who are 2-2, particularly 2, main 2 type, so 1 is 2, both second type is 2 as well. If you have 1, 2, and 1, 3, you are in line between 2 and 3. So 1 is 2 and the other one is 4. You are in between, 2 and 4, somewhere around 3. So you are going to share some traits from the 2. You are going to share some traits from the 4. So you have to understand that, how this ApoE business goes, into effect. Because, as we have one copy of, one gene from mom and one copy of one gene from dad. So we are exhibiting both the characteristics. But these folks are completely 2-2. So it means that, they are very poor handler of high triglyceride, particularly carb source, refined carbs and sugar. So they are they need to be very careful for insulin sensitivity, because they tend to get insulin resistance pretty quick. Now, eat more. What are they supposed to eat? Eat more fatty fish, salmon, sardines, oily fish. Okay. When I'm talking about, remember that, as I said in my previous vlogs, when you are consuming any fish, better be wild caught, not farm raised, because, we don't want to eat fish which has been fed all the junks in the farm raised conditions. Okay. Extra virgin olive oil. Okay. And avocado oil, okay. particularly extra virgin olive oil with a good source, monovarietal. It's the best way to go. Okay, lentils, beans, steel cut oats. Now it give me here, it's listed that steel cut oats, but oat has some amount of complex carbs, so you have to watch your triglyceride. It based on this steel cut oats. If your lipid is reflecting that you are shooting up in triglyceride, then you have to find some other alternate, than steel cut oat. Okay, because I'll tell you what I have listed here and what I have tweaked it on my own. So basically, when we read the scientific literature, because scientific literature is written on a variety of subjects. Okay, now I am customizing that variety of subjects on myself. That's a little bit much more broader perspective, but I as an individual, I have to see myself, that how I can tweak myself to customize that variety of broad perspective. So you have to be mindful here that don't take it granted that steel cut oats is the way to go. But if your steel cut oats in your diet raises your triglyceride, then you have to find some other alternate. Berries, all kind of berries, leafy greens. Okay, limit what they are limiting to. As I said, that there are very insulin sensitive, poor insulin sensitive, they tend to get insulin resistance pretty quick. So they are saying that limit your sugar and refined carbs, excess alcohol. Okay, any drinking habits. I wouldn't even touch the social occasional habits, even beer or alcohol or any form of alcohol. And stay away from ultra processed food. Now this is a universal thing for all the 6 categories. Ultra processed food should not be part of our diet, period. Best pattern, what diet pattern? Best patterns are probably here in this case, Mediterranean diet plus low glycemic load. What is a low glycemic load? You may have heard low glycemic index. GI, glycemic index, is a sugar content in the diet, but glycemic load takes 2 things into perspective. One is sugar content, how much glucose is there, plus how much carb is there. So they are talking about here glycemic load. So you don't have to see always it's low GI, low glycemic index, but watch for the carb, because ultimately the carb is going to turn into glucose, and then you're going to have a spike in your triglyceride and your insulin resistance. Okay, ApoE 2-3, balanced but carb sensitive. Again, it's in between. It's sharing some traits of 3, some traits of 2. It's balanced out, but again, it's carb sensitive. Okay, so be mindful of carbs, particularly the refined carbs and sugars. Eat more vegetables of all colors. The more colorful vegetables you include, because those vegetables has complex carbs in it. Okay, of course it has a little bit starch in it, no doubt about it, but I'm using a lot of vegetables. I eat, in my veggie plate, about 12 to 13 vegetables on daily basis before I have my main course meal. One full plate, I have a veggies daily, and it doesn't spike anything. I've seen in my case, I've seen in my wife's case, both. We carry different ApoE genotypes. Nuts and seeds. Okay, you have to be, again, watch my nuts vlog. That handful of nuts, approximately under 30 grams, not more than that. Fermented food like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut. If you can afford, if you can tolerate the natto, I have done a vlog on that. Hopefully the benefits of natto, I'm going to be doing another vlog in future. But all kind of fermented food is good for everyone. Limit sugary foods. Okay, as I said, that because they are carb sensitive, limit sugary foods, limit refined carbs. White flour products, again, white flour products is nothing but refined carbs. Best patterns are Mediterranean with moderate carbs, particularly moderate carbs. When we are talking about, it should be complex carbs. Okay, ApoE 3-3, this is the trait I carry, most common. About I would say about close to 70 to 75% of the world population carry 3-3. So this is the most common genotype. Metabolically flexible, but watch carefully. This is a very generous term, metabolically flexible. Okay. Eat more whole foods of all kinds, close to the nature, whole foods. Okay. As God created things. Okay. Wholesome wheat bread or wholesome multigrain nut bread is not whole food. Okay. It has gone through the processes, and you have to be mindful and watch the ingredients, what it went into making that bread. Eat fish 2 to 3 times a week, as I do. I eat sockeye twice a week on a religious basis. Those are wild caught salmon, sockeye. Healthy fats like olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and nuts. This is part of my daily staple. Of course, I don't eat bread because in my case, I needed to bring my triglyceride down, even though it was under 150. It was around 90, but I needed to cut down furthermore, and I cut it down into half. Why? Because remember my previous vlog on advanced panel IQ, that my small dense particle, which is strongly correlated with triglyceride, they were in the range of around 700, and I had to lower it down, and I finally managed to lower it down to 180 from 700. That's almost 73% drop. So I'm making my own bread. I'm using my coconut bread on a daily basis. Okay, that's the way to go. Because I customize that diet, even though it says that whole foods of all kinds, but I customize further based on what my lipids are generating, as we are all individually different. Remember my word. This thing I've been saying, that when it comes to individual customization, you have to work with your lipids. You have to work with your blood work, your test, how you can conform things to suit you. Okay, this is general broad guidelines. Then whole grains, if tolerated. You see that here it says if tolerated. I was not tolerating very good whole grains. Okay, that's why I switched to coconut flour bread, because my triglyceride, my small dense particle would shut up. Okay, limit overeating. So I don't overeat. I follow the blue zone principle, 80-20. 80% I eat, 20% I'm empty. Okay, so fried and processed food, I'm staying away from that. Of course, this is not good for anyone. Fried and processed food for all the 6 categories. Best pattern, balanced Mediterranean diet or whole food diet. Okay, eat close to the nature. Again, ApoE 2-4. So it shares some traits with ApoE genotype 2, and it shares with 4. Now remember that 4 is very, very fat metabolizing category genotype. It metabolizes fats pretty fast. Okay, so and this thing is a insulin sensitive issue as well. They don't handle very well the insulin spikes. Okay, so here you have combination of two genotypes with 2 variations of problems. One is insulin and fat. Both are sensitive, from both perspectives. So here you have to be mindful that eat more non-starchy vegetables. So you have to go with all the vegetables which are non-starchy, low glycemic load veggies. Okay, fatty fish, not red meat, because red meat has saturated fat. Okay, and 4 folks are not good handler of fats. Okay, remember that they don't handle fats very well. I'll come to that next one. Okay, so olive oil and flaxseed. So here olive oil is good. Here again, extra virgin monovarietal. Flaxseed, you have to be very careful. Flaxseed has omega-3, but not in the EPA and DHA form. It has a ALA form. A lot of vegetarian folks use flaxseed assuming that they are getting a lot of omega-3, but body is not that smart to convert a whole lot of ALA into EPA and DHA conversion. Okay, so you are not going to get it. So flaxseed, and then other issue is that flaxseed has a lot of what do you call estrogen and progesterone. All right, so if for particularly for females, if the hormones are acting weird and you're high on the you tend to get high on the estrogen and progesterone side, so you have to be mindful. Like my wife used to eat before. We used to put actually in the bread flaxseed, but we stopped doing it for a couple of years now, because that's not good for her. Okay, so low GI fruits, of course, because they are poor handler of the insulin sensitivity. So low GI food, of course, low GI, it's written here, but I would say low glycemic load fruits, particularly berries, handful of berries, all sorts of berries like blackberries, blueberries, wild blueberries, blackberries and strawberries, and sometimes if there's a season for cherries, have some cherries as well. Limit here saturated fat, because these four folks are not good handler of fats, particularly saturated fats. They are good handler of mono unsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. So we call it MUFA and PUFA, right? They are good handler of that, so that's not a problem. That's why olive oil is written here, because olive oil has mono and poly. It doesn't have any saturated fat. Simple carbs you have to limit, because here 2 is there, so they are not good insulin handler. So simple carbs should be avoided. Late night eating is not good for anyone, particularly these folks. We have to be mindful for that. Best pattern, Mediterranean plus carb awareness. Okay, you have to be mindful. You have to train our mind. We have to all train our mind. As I said in my last vlog, that it's doable, but it requires strict discipline. Okay, if I can do it, if my wife can do it, I think everybody can do it. You guys can do it too. It just takes one step at a time. You have to build your stamina, just like athlete builds a stamina slowly and gradually. You have to build your stamina for resistance. Okay, resistance to variety of junk food, processed food, whatever it attracts you, gives you cravings. Okay, all those things. You have to build that stamina. ApoE 3-4, this is my wife. Okay, so they are good handler of mono and polyunsaturated fat, but they are not good handler of saturated fats. So what I found out when I was digging up vitamin K2 related stuff, and when I fixed that issue, and then because my wife, when we found out she is 3-4, and 4 genotype is a dementia risk genotype. If, for instance, I have mentioned in my previous vlogs that if somebody carries 1 copy of 3 and 1 copy of 4, 3-4, they have a 30% chance in the later part of their life that you will have some sort of a dementia related issue. But if the copies are double copy of 4, means this is 4 and this is 4, both copies are 4, then that 30% probability of dementia jumps to 90%. Okay, now the silver lining in this statement is that 30% risk is there, but 70% won't get it. Okay, now what are the things which we can do that we can mitigate that issue? Okay, we have to be mindful for certain regimen in our life, in our diet, in our lifestyle, that we have to follow. And one of the regimen here is to avoid saturated fat. So when I found out that she is 4, she should be avoiding all saturated fat, including butter, ghee, cheese, including beef, meat items. So she stopped eating meat. And of course, we cook meal together. So although I'm okay with meat, but of course, we are not going to make 2 separate dishes. So I stopped eating meat as well. So we eat chicken, organic chicken, fish, prawns, we eat shrimps. So all those things are fine because it doesn't have that much saturated fat, not much at all. And what I have observed, one thing very stood out in front of me when I saw her lipid profile for the last 2 years, that her LDL was in the range of 145 to 146, hovering between 140 and 150. And I didn't pay too much attention because my concern was to limit saturated fat because of her ApoE genotype 4 for the dementia risk related, right? So I said that you have to stop eating all the saturated fat. So when she stopped following lipid profiles, I saw her cholesterol, particularly LDL, dropped from 140s to 96. And that's about over 34-35% drop. Okay, so it's quite a bit drop. So I was scratching my head that why this drop took place. And then when I started looking at the literature, that it said that 4 folks metabolize fats faster, particularly saturated. They are very sensitive to saturated fat. Now when she cut it down, all these things, her LDL dropped, and that made sense to me, that why LDL dropped. Okay, now same thing with me. My LDL was hovering between 120 and 130 in between, right? When I stopped, because I'm moderate handler of saturated fat. Okay, so when I stopped that meat eating with my wife, my LDL dropped too. So the drop was not that drastic as my wife, because I'm in the moderate range, in between 2 and 4. So my drop was like under 20%, not a whole lot. So my LDL dropped from 120s to 105. Sometimes 96, sometimes 100, sometimes 105. So it's hovering between 95 and 105. So these are the observations which I have seen in my lipid based on these genotypes, and that's why I'm sharing with you. So high cholesterol and inflammation response. Now they are the 4 folks also prone to CVD, cardiovascular disease as well, because the inflammation response are very, very high in them. Okay, and of course when you have inflammation, when your endothelial layer is damaged, okay, that's the first thing happens inside the interior arteries. And then if you have a high cholesterol, it's like a cascading event. Okay, so it's not good. So these 2 things are very important in 3-4 and 4-4 both. So eat more vegetables, especially cruciferous vegetables. Okay, fish, legumes, tofu, and then polyphenols like berries, green tea. So she's consuming, my wife is consuming all these things on a daily basis. Strongly limit butter, cream, cheese. See, these are saturated fat. So first 3 items and red meat, all 4 items are saturated fat. So they are saying strongly limit these. Okay, and of course fried food as well. Okay, we are not consuming any fried foods. Best patterns, Mediterranean, mostly plant-based forward, plant forward, right? Now last but not least, 4-4. They are most diet sensitive genotype. Why? Because they are very poor handler of fats, particularly saturated fat, because they tend to spike their LDL just like 3-4 folks. 4-4 is much more pronounced in their jumping in their LDL if they consume. So if they consume that saturated fat. So folks who are on keto, they have to be mindful. Fatty fish, of course, wild caught for omega-3, because remember that this 3-4 and 4-4 both are dementia related. And if you remember my omega-3 vlog, when I discussed that omega-3 and vitamin B12, these are the 2 major components for the brain nourishment. And for these folks, 3-4 and 4-4, it's a must. Okay, it's a must. So you have to be on certain diets that you have to feed your body based on your genotype. That's what we are talking about today. Then herbs and spices and green tea. Of course, here you know, they can as well eat the variety of berries as well, because those are low glycemic load fruits as well. Herbs, spices, variety of spices, and green tea. What they need to limit: avoid saturated fat. Again, butter, ghee, cheese, processed meat, all sorts of red meat, because they carry saturated fats. And then they have to avoid refined carbs as well, because refined carbs is going to increase their inflammation response. Okay, because here the insulin is not, because eventually the response of inflammation is there, and then if you have lesions in your arteries inside, and you have a high tendency of keeping the cholesterol high, because you are genotype 4, your your liver is producing a little bit more already. Okay, and you don't want to consume more saturated fat, that it can go through the roof, and you have a cascading event. So you have to be mindful for that. So best pattern here is low saturated fat Mediterranean diet or MIND diet. So let me stop share here. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of how this ApoE genotype plays a vital role in keeping our body in correct form, so that we are staying away from the diseases which is going to happen years down the road. So we are trying to conform, basically we are trying to customize our diet based on our ApoE genotype. So if somebody is on keto and saying that my LDL shot up, and they don't know about their genotype, if I were you, I would check my genotype first. And if I get 3-4 or 4-4, I eliminate all the saturated fat first, and in the following lipid I would see that if there is any drop or not. Okay, my gut feeling is that as I have seen in my wife's case, I've seen to some extent in my case, but not drastic, because I'm 3 and that's not very poor handler of fats, but 4 folks are very poor handler of saturated fat. So my gut feeling is that I just wanted to give you this hint for a lot of people who are going full force with keto. You may not be ideal for keto. Okay, so I just wanted to lay out today this vlog for all those folks, because I learned a lot from this digging the scientific literature, and I applied it to our life, and I've seen the fruitful results. So I thought that I share with you this. And if you have any questions, comments, please include in the comment section, and I'll try to respond to you. Thank you. See you next week. Bye.